I'm Jeff White from VirginiaSports.com, and I'm here on this early signing day with head coach Bronco Mendenhall. Bronco, 10 players signed with UVA today. 9 of them are high school seniors. The other is a transfer from the University of Wisconsin. First of all, what are your general thoughts on this class?
I think, first of all, they're amazing people in today's age of uncertainty and of transfer and of commitment or non-commitment. These young men and their families are, I think, exemplary, and I'm so thankful for their commitment. I love their ability. They're aligned with the University of Virginia in terms of the values, but also the ability to help the program move forward. And in a very unique transition time, they've provided a really nice sense of stability amongst really unique circumstances.
With current college players having extra eligibility because of the COVID year, roster management has become more complicated for coaching staffs. How big of a challenge was that for you when you started putting together this staff, this class?
Yeah, it was and still is. And so the unique challenge that every college coach is facing is that the players that have an additional year now because of COVID, they're playing their season. And you really don't want to interrupt that with thoughts of, are you coming back, are you not coming back? And then there's this time period, whether there's a coaching transition or not, between the last game and the bowl game, to then approach that. And so and this is regards from coach to player, your thoughts are coming back or not coming back. Well, in the meantime, during that entire span, you really have to prepare as if those players are not going to come back, which means you're recruiting high school players. Now, the unique challenge would be is if those players that are on your existing roster with experience choose to come back, and you've committed and accepted commitments from high school players, and then you have to at some point then say no, which is a really poor position to be in. And so the uncertainty and the lack of clarity makes it really challenging, knowing that you want every opportunity for existing players to stay. But in the event they don't, you have to be prepared with high school players. And so you're making decisions on limited information against a time frame, and it's really a challenge. And so a lot has to be done with the calendar, a lot has to be done with timing, a lot has to be done with the processes. Certainly something has to be done with the transfer portal and kind of the free agency window of possibly from this date to this date, you can enter the portal and be recruited, much like the NFL, but open-ended makes it really difficult in terms of managing the roster, which ties to the question. This
class is likely to grow later on. For now, it consists of 10 members. Let's, if you will, let's go through the group.
Sure.
2 of the incoming players were high school quarterbacks. Davis Lane played in the ultra-successful program at Liberty Christian in Lynchburg. Delaney Crawford is from California. What did you like about each of those 2?
Yeah, unique skill sets. Davis Lane, wow, did we vet him and work him and test him in every possible way. So besides his game film, and he came to camp, right? And then there's all kinds of drills we put him through, and he kept answering the challenge and answering the test and answering the challenge. And his mobility, his speed, his arm strength, his accuracy, and his leadership. And we couldn't have turned him upside down and shook him anymore to see what kind of fit he would be. And Coach Beck ultimately just said, man, he has to be at UVA, and he has a very bright future based on all the quarterbacks that we've trained. And all 3 here have been very, very good, and we think he has a chance to be another one of those with his own unique skills. And we love who he is. And as a student, he's just, a lot of great things about him.
Delaney Crawford was, I think, a late addition, relatively late addition to the class.
Delaney Crawford is electric. 10.5, 100 meters, a dynamic athlete, more of the Bryce Perkins type of quarterback, where if he does pull it and run, watch out. And just his ability to extend plays, to make plays, and to score and go the entire distance. Again, with an amazing grade point average, an amazing family, great values. We like the dynamic ability with the personal characteristics and see a huge upside for him.
Davis Lane is one of 3 mid-year enrollees in the class. The other 2 are Stevie Bracey and Devin Chandler. Stevie is from Lovett School in Atlanta, which is also the alma mater of Nick Jackson, who's done great things here. What attracted you to Stevie as a player and a person?
Yeah, production, and the school is something we would call a profile school. And he and Nick Jackson, if they're lined up side by side, they'll look like brothers or twins, and how they play, how they tackle, their command presence, their leadership, but their preparation for UVA as well. Wow, amazing people. And so Stevie fits UVA in every regard and a really, really good football player. I love his presence. I love his durability. I love his physicality. I love his production, as I've already mentioned. But I also love his preparation. And from that school and having Nick Jackson, we already know what that's going to look like. And this is the next version of that.
Devin Chandler will come here with 3 years of eligibility from Wisconsin. Virginia was one of his finalists the first time around, I believe. He's also, in addition to being a wide receiver, I believe he's a talented return specialist. He
is, and I still remember Devin on his visit as a high school player, and Coach Higgins and I sitting with him, and it was basically down to us in Wisconsin. And he ultimately chose Wisconsin. I thought at that time he would be a better fit with us. And so when he became available, it was an easy choice. Exceptional wide receiver, fast, athletic, dynamic, very good hands, and great after the catch. And we need a returner as well. And so that Devin is a skilled returner also, with 3 years of eligibility, really addresses a need, but also addresses it with a level of competency that is really growth-oriented for him and us. And Coach Higgins, again, has built a great relationship with Devin. He knows that this is the place for him. Really excited, as any receiver would be, at the chances of Brennan coming back, and already knows not only the system we were in, but is excited about the system Coach Elliott will bring, and so a lot of upside and a lot of potential there. Xavier Brown is from Lexington, Kentucky, and this week he was named the Gatorade Player of the Year for his state. I think his team made it to the state final before it lost for the first time. He put up impressive numbers as a running back in high school. Is he comparable in his skill set to anyone who's here? I'm not sure comparable, but he plays football. And so Keaton is a football player. Xavier is very good out of the backfield. He can line up on the slot and catch the football. He tells me he can throw, but he does a lot of things. He's very versatile. And I like players that are versatile and productive, and capable to contribute in multiple ways, and that's what he is. And again, a really good student, an amazing person, and pretty high honor when you look at what his peers and the coaches and others think of him, and lights up the room when he comes in, and just a joy to be around. The class includes 2 players from Chattanooga, Tennessee. Trey McDonald is a linebacker, Carson Gay is a tight end. They play at different schools, but I believe they know each other. Did that synergy kind of help get them both here? Yeah, I'm not sure that influenced them coming, but a fun relationship to see develop. Trey McDonald, a great lacrosse player also, and just everything about him. Any kind of helmet he could wear to play a sport, he's going to put on that helmet. He loves contact. When he came on his official visit, there's gainers off the side of the pool, and he's just wired to play football. And so how and who he is exactly the type of player I like to coach on defense, and it's all gas and no brakes, which is really fun at an amazing school that's so challenging. And he's got this kind of split personality happening of aggression and then academic modeling, which is unreal. And then Carson, wow, somewhere between a flex Y and a tight end. So length and size and speed and the ability to be a great receiver. and athleticism, in so many ways. Not the same size as Jelani, and not the same elusiveness or maybe versatility as KT, but somewhere in between that. And we've coached players like him at throughout our career as a staff, and wow, they've been successful. So huge upside, especially in the receiving game for him.
Two of the high school players who signed today are wide receivers. Both stand around 6'5". First one I'll ask you about is Dakota Twitty, who's from North Carolina. Dakota has been absolutely steadfast, I believe, in his commitment to Virginia from day one. What has impressed you about him?
Well, as a football player, you've already mentioned size, but very good hands. I think exceptional production. But we like big targets at wideout, and we like capable players, and we like physical players. And we think that's the next step as for growth in our offense, but also for college football. Those matchups are hard. And as a defensive coach, we know they're hard, and so we're presenting and attracting as many players as possible for that to happen.
Sean Wilson is another big target. He's from Brooklyn, New York. I know he's dealing with an injury now, but what is his upside?
I don't know where it is, other than it's beyond what I could think. So we don't put a limit on it, but it's off the chart. Another very big, physical, active, fast, talented football player that's a great person. And so when you consider the chance of maybe Lavelle and Dakota and goes by JR being on the field all at the same time, in addition to Dontavian, as well as Devin, there starts to be a pretty powerful combination from quarterback to those players. And again, a lot of that I would say a lot of the credit should go to Coach Hagens for identifying and attracting and building that room.
Last but certainly not least is Will Bettridge, a kicker from Gulliver Prep in Miami, which is a program that's been very good to UVA. The head coach there is Earl Sims, who played linebacker here. Mandy Alonso is a Gulliver Prep alum, as is Deshaun Perry. Will comes with a lot of accolades for a high school kicker, doesn't he?
I don't think you can have more. So every game or thing you could be invited to, or every award you could get, he has, and points matter. And so, wow, was I proud of Brendan Farrell this year and what he did for our program. This now becomes someone targeted early on that has a great chance again to fit perfectly at UVA and have elite production at a position that adds points, and points determines outcome. And so proud of Will, but also just really excited for what he's going to bring.
How much of an opportunity have you had to discuss these players with Tony Elliott?
So I'm spending an hour or so per day right now with Tony every morning, just talking about everything in our program, which is pretty unique in college football. I want this program to succeed, to continue to become, to thrive, and from our current roster to all of our staff to every part of support group, including the recruits, right? That was early on. And so when asked, I gave my assessment for every single player, and that gave a point of reference then to establish wherever Tony chose to go with it.
For any personnel moves going forward, whether that be picking up players from the transfer portal or signing more players in February, will those be determined by Coach Elliott and his staff?
From this point forward, and really from the time of my announcement until Tony was announced, right? That was those were all my decisions. But once Tony was announced, right, that in moving forward for personnel decisions, those become his decisions. After acknowledging what commitments we had and what evaluations were already in place, right? But every other decision from this point forward regarding personnel and recruiting is his.
One final question. When the early signing day was implemented several years ago, there was a lot of initial positive feedback. I think in the years that have followed, we've seen some unintended consequences that may not be as good. Do you see this as something that could be changed, the calendar altered, or do you think this is here to
No,
stay.
it doesn't work. The calendar needs to be revised. The bowl season, how that works, coaching changes, how that works, the transfer portal, how that's working, the timing with a signing date in mid-December, none of that is aligning to allow the appropriate responses, the most educated decisions, or the roster management that needs to happen at the best level that it could. And so the calendar, in my opinion, needs a complete redesign, as well as the portal timing, as well as the chance for players to decide when to decide, for coaches to know that, and so the rosters can be balanced and managed before the first opportunity to sign. And all that's happening at the same time right now, which is going to lead to more mistakes and more portal entries. And it doesn't need to be that way if we would just look harder at the timing.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks.